Commander Ripley was having one hell of a bad day. First, the coffee machine on his cargo ship broke down. Then the nav system glitched, displaying everything in what appeared to be Wingding's font. And now, somehow, he'd crashed his ship, the ironically named Lucky Break, straight into what looked like a giant floating snow globe in the middle of nowhere. Jeff? You seeing this? Ripley called out to his first mate, who was currently unconscious and drooling on the control panel. Fantastic. Just fantastic. Ripley unbuckled himself from the captain's chair and floated toward the airlock. The collision hadn't been that bad, just a fender bender really, but protocol demanded he check for damage. What he didn't expect was to find himself face to face with what could only be described as a 6-foot-tall praying mantis wearing what appeared to be a lab coat and holding a clipboard. "Holy shit," Ripley exclaimed, eyes widening. "You guys are real." The mantis creature dropped its clipboard, all 4 of its arms flailing in what Ripley could only assume was panic. Decontamination. Contamination. The experiment has been compromised. It shrieked in surprisingly perfect English. Ripley scratched his unshaven chin. Sorry about your snow globe? Space station? Whatever this is. Insurance should cover it." The mantis alien seemed to be hyperventilating, if that was even possible. "I am Senior Xenobiologist XL Vor of the Galactic Council. You have just crashed into our observation post, making this the first official contact between humans and the Galactic Alliance. This moment will go down in interstellar history, and you're concerned about insurance. Look, buddy, I've got a shipment of synthetic cheese and knockoff designer jeans that needs to get to Europa Colony by Tuesday. So if we could just exchange information and—" "Do you not understand the magnitude of this moment?" Selvor interrupted, mandibles clicking furiously. "Your species has just joined the galactic community. This requires proper protocols, formal ceremonies, cultural exchange programs." Ripley yawned. "Yeah, that sounds like a lot of paperwork. Got any coffee around here?" "Mine's broken." Selvor started documenting frantically on a holographic notepad. Subject displays remarkable nonchalance at first contact, potentially indicates either advanced psychological conditioning or severe cognitive limitations. "Hey, I can hear you, Ripley said. "And I'm not cognitively limited. I've just seen enough sci-fi to know how this goes. You guys either want to study us, trade with us, or eat us. Hoping it's not the last one, but honestly, after the week I've had, being probed might be an improvement." The alien looked genuinely horrified. "We do not probe." "What barbaric species would Gexelvor?" paused mid-sentence. "Wait, is that something humans do to other species?" "Nah, just something we joke about." Ripley grinned. "So, you gonna call the space cops or what?" "Worse," Selvor said gravely. "I must report this to the council. You'll need to come with me." "Cool road trip," Ripley said, turning back toward his ship. "Let me just grab my first mate and—" "That won't be necessary," Selvor interrupted. "As the one who initiated contact, you now represent all of humanity. Congratulations, Commander Ripley. You are now Earth's ambassador to the stars." Ripley stared blankly at the alien. "Well, that's just perfect. Humanity is so screwed." The Galactic Council chamber resembled what would happen if you combined the United Nations, a mega-church, and a laser light show. Hundreds of different alien species occupied floating platforms arranged in concentric circles, all facing a central podium where Ripley now stood, picking at a hangnail. "Could you please stop that?" Selvor whispered urgently from beside him. "The council chairperson is about to speak." "Sorry, nervous habit," Ripley whispered back. "Also, pretty sure I still have cheese dust on my uniform." A tall, elegant alien with skin like polished obsidian and eyes that sparkled like galaxies floated down to address the council. This was Lon Pax, chairperson of the Galactic Council, and according to the hurried briefing Excelvor had given Ripley, one of the most respected diplomats in the known universe. "Members of the council," Lon Pax began, voice resonating through the chamber like a perfect symphony. "Today we welcome for observation purposes only a representative of a newly discovered sentient species, humans from the planet Earth." A murmur rippled through the chamber, Ripley gave an awkward wave. Ambassador Ripley. Lon Pax continued. Perhaps you could tell us about your civilization's achievements and values. Ripley cleared his throat. Well, we've got Netflix, which is pretty cool. Oh, and we just figured out how to deliver pizza that stays hot all the way to the outer colonies. People really like that. The chamber fell silent. Salvor made a noise like a dying radiator. Perhaps, Lon Pax suggested gently, you could tell us about your scientific advancements? Your energy sources? Your weapons capabilities? Oh sure, Ripley nodded. We've got these things called memes that can spread an idea across the entire planet in like hours. Pretty powerful stuff. And we've got reality TV shows where people get famous just for being terrible at relationships. Oh, and we discovered that if you mix energy drinks with certain alcohols, you can stay awake for 3 days straight before your heart tries to escape through your ribcage. The council members began whispering among themselves. Lon Pax's galaxy eyes narrowed. You are describing psychological warfare tactics, they stated. What? No, I'm talking about entertainment, Ripley laughed. You deliberately engineer informational viruses, these memes, to infiltrate minds. You publicly humiliate your own species for mass observation. You conduct endurance experiments with chemical stimulants. Lon Pax was now hovering slightly higher. A sign Salvor had mentioned indicated extreme distress. When you put it that way, it sounds bad, Ripley admitted, but it's all voluntary. Mostly. Look, humans just like doing weird stuff for fun. They define weird stuff. A counselor called out. You know, like eating contests where people consume 60 hot dogs in 10 minutes, or jumping out of perfectly good aircraft with parachutes. Or those YouTube videos where people purposely get stung by the most painful insects on Earth just to rate the pain. The chamber erupted in chaos. Salvor was frantically taking notes while simultaneously trying to sink through the floor. Order. Lon Pax commanded, their voice cutting through the pandemonium. Ambassador Ripley, are you stating that humans deliberately subject themselves to pain, poison, and potentially lethal situations for entertainment? Well, yeah. Ripley shrugged. We get bored easily. A new wave of horrified chattering swept through the council. We ran computer simulations of human behavior based on your entertainment transmissions, a jellyfish-like counselor gurgled. We assumed they were fictional exaggerations. Some are, Ripley clarified. Like we don't actually have giant lizards attacking our cities regularly. But the stuff about people eating Tide Pods for internet fame, that unfortunately happened. He's describing a species-wide death wish, someone whispered loudly. No, Ripley tried to salvage the situation. We're just, adventurous, curious, always pushing boundaries. The human civilization must be contained before they push boundaries that endanger the galactic community, Lon Pax declared. This meeting will adjourn while we discuss the human problem. As the council members filed out, Ripley turned to Salvor. That went well, right? Salvor just stared at him. I'm documenting you as a new classification, obliviously dangerous. The emergency session of the Galactic Security Council took place in a smaller, more serious-looking chamber. Gone were the floating platforms and laser displays, replaced by what appeared to be the alien equivalent of a war room. Ripley had been asked to wait outside, which he was perfectly fine with as it gave him time to raid what he hoped was a vending machine but turned out to be a sacred meditation cube. Inside the chamber, the debate about humanity's fate was growing heated. Quarantine the entire system, insisted Krex, a reptilian commander of the Galactic Defense Force. His scales flushed red as he slammed a clawed fist on the table. These humans are clearly too unstable to be allowed interstellar access. Krex stood nearly 8 feet tall with a body covered in armored plates and a face that looked perpetually disappointed. His species, the Vraxian, were known across the galaxy as humorless militarists who considered it enjoyment a form of weakness. Isn't that a bit extreme? Countered a small, fuzzy alien named Meepo. They haven't actually done anything hostile yet. Ace Meepo, a renowned anthropologist from the Fluffarian Collective, resembled nothing so much as a sentient dust bunny with enormous, expressive eyes. Unlike the others, Meepo seemed genuinely intrigued rather than terrified by humanity's peculiarities. Not hostile? Krek spat. Did you not hear the human ambassador describe how they subject themselves to near-death experiences for fun? What kind of species does that? A fascinating one, Meepo replied, bouncing slightly in excitement. Think of what we could learn from them. Lompax called for order with a harmonious chime that immediately silenced the room. We must approach this systematically. Selvor, as our first contact specialist, what is your assessment? Selvor's antennae twitched nervously. Based on my brief observations, humans appear to possess a unique psychological makeup that combines remarkable creativity with bewildering recklessness. They seem to lack the self-preservation instincts common to most sentient species. Exactly my point. Krex interjected. They're unpredictable and dangerous. But also ingenious, Meepo countered. Any species that can turn self-destruction into entertainment must have cognitive capacities we don't yet understand. What about their technological capabilities? Asked a counselor constructed entirely of floating light. Are they a threat? But their technology is inconsistent, Excelvor admitted. They've mastered space travel but still use combustion engines. They've created advanced AI but still argue about whether climate change is real. They have nuclear weapons, but also something called inflatable tube men that they place outside retail establishments. Those are actually pretty fun to watch, offered Meepo. Krex hissed in frustration. This is precisely the problem. We cannot predict what they will do next. Meanwhile, in the corridor outside, Ripley had struck up a conversation with a maintenance drone. So you're telling me you guys have figured out faster than light travel but you still have to clean floors? That's rough, buddy. The drone, not programmed for philosophical discussions about labor politics, continued polishing the already immaculate floor. Back in the council chamber, the debate had evolved into a risk assessment. I propose a compromise, Lompax finally announced. Before making any decision about humanity's status, we should observe them in their natural habitat. You want to send a research team to Earth? Selvor's mandibles clicked anxiously. Is that wise? I volunteer. Meepo bounced enthusiastically. It would be a strictly observational mission. Lompax clarified. No interference, no contact with other humans, just Ambassador Ripley guiding a small team to better understand human behavior. I insist on military surveillance, Krex demanded. My ships will monitor from orbit in case extraction becomes necessary. Agreed. Lompax nodded. Excelvor, you will lead the scientific team. Me? Selvor's exoskeleton seemed to pale. With all due respect, Chairperson, I'm a xenobiologist, not a field researcher, and certainly not equipped for potentially hazardous environments. You've already established rapport with the human, Lompax stated firmly, and your detailed documentation will be crucial. When informed of the plan, Ripley seemed surprisingly enthusiastic. Earth field trip. Awesome. I know this great bar in New Bangkok where the bartender sets the drinks on fire before serving them. You guys will love it. Selvor and Meepo exchanged glances, one terrified, one thrilled. For science, Meepo whispered excitedly. We're all going to die, Selvor responded. 3 days later, Selvor was seriously questioning his career choices as he found himself in what humans called a mall food court, watching in horror as dozens of humans voluntarily consumed substances that would be classified as biological weapons on at least 6 different planets. What is that person eating? Selvor whispered urgently to Ripley, pointing at a teenager devouring something bright red and steaming. Carolina Reaper wings, Ripley explained casually. They're having a spicy food challenge. Then, whoever finishes gets their picture on the wall of flame and a free t-shirt. But that substance is causing visible pain, Selvor observed as tears streamed down the competitor's face. The human is sweating, turning red, and appears to be in respiratory distress. Yeah, that's how you know it's working, Ripley nodded appreciatively. Apo, who had disguised himself as a particularly fuzzy backpack that Ripley carried, peeked out with fascination. Are they building immunity to poisons? Is this defensive training? Nah, it's just for bragging rights, Ripley said, though I guess it does build up tolerance. My cousin Eddie can chug hot sauce like water now. Selvor made careful notes. Humans deliberately expose themselves to toxic substances to gain social status and commemorative clothing. A possible indication of tribal initiation rituals or proof of genetic superiority within their hierarchy. Their mall tour continued with similar misunderstandings. At the arcade, Selvor became convinced that children playing first-person shooter games were undergoing military simulation training. Look at the precision, the tactical awareness. That 7-year-old just executed a perfect flanking maneuver. He's camping the spawn point. Ripley corrected. It's actually considered bad form. The escalator proved particularly troubling for Selvor, who couldn't understand why humans would trust their safety to moving stairs. What if it accelerates suddenly? What if it develops sentience? But it was the visit to Venice Beach that truly pushed Selvor to the brink of a nervous breakdown. As they walked along the boardwalk, they encountered a group of parkour enthusiasts leaping between concrete barriers and flipping off walls. What are they fleeing from? Selvor asked, frantically looking around for predators. Nothing, Ripley explained. They're just doing parkour. Parkour? Yeah, it's like extreme walking. Getting from point A to point B in the most complicated way possible. Apo was enthralled. So they deliberately increased the difficulty and danger of basic locomotion. Fascinating. Their attention was then drawn to a group gathered around a muscular human performing feats of strength. The man lifted weights, bent metal bars, and even allowed a volunteer to break a concrete block on his chest as he lay between two beds of nails. Is this some form of public torture? Selvor asked, antennae quivering. Street performance, Ripley corrected. He's doing it for tips. Your species pays currency to watch other humans risk injury. Wait till I tell you about our healthcare system, Ripley muttered. The final straw came when they witnessed a group of skydivers landing on the beach, colorful parachutes billowing above them. They're jumping from functioning aircraft. Selvor's voice had reached a pitch only dogs and certain sensitive laboratory equipment could detect. For what purpose? Are they escaping? For fun. Ripley shrugged. The rush, you know. No, I don't know. Selvor was frantically typing into his communicator. Commander Krex, I must report that humans regularly fling themselves from high altitudes for entertainment. I repeat, they willingly exit perfectly operational aerial vehicles without being pursued by predators. That doesn't sound so bad, Meepo commented from the backpack. I'd try it. Look, Ripley said, attempting damage control, humans just like adrenaline. It makes us feel alive. So you're saying, Selvor clarified, that humans deliberately seek near-death experiences because it enhances their sensation of living? Pretty much, yeah. In orbit above Earth, Commander Krex received Selvor's increasingly panicked reports with growing alarm. They consume poison for status, they train children in combat simulators, they leap from heights for chemical brain stimulation. Krex read aloud to his officers. This species isn't just dangerous, they're methodically training themselves to overcome every natural survival instinct. Sir, his second-in-command ventured. Perhaps they're just odd. No, Krex decided, eyes narrowing. No species evolves such behaviors without purpose. They must be preparing for something. And I will not wait to find out what. He turned to his tactical officer. Prepare the containment fleet. We're initiating a preventative security operation immediately. CNN breaking news anchor Doug Mitchell was having an ordinary Tuesday morning until the massive alien warships appeared over major cities worldwide. We're getting reports of what appear to be extraterrestrial spacecraft above London, Tokyo, New York, and yes, I'm being told there's one right outside our studio window. He turned to look. Professional demeanor cracking slightly. Holy, I mean, we are indeed witnessing what appears to be first contact with an alien civilization. Live on CNN. Commander Krex's face appeared on screens worldwide, his reptilian features rendered in high definition that really brought out the menace in his yellow eyes. "People of Earth," he announced, "I am Commander Krex of the Galactic Defense Force. We have determined your species to be a potential threat to galactic security and are implementing containment protocols. Do not resist. This is for your own safety as well as ours." There was a moment of stunned silence across the planet. Then humanity responded in a way Krex had not anticipated. They got excited. Really excited. In Times Square, tourists cheered and took selfies with the massive warship in the background. In Tokyo, cosplayers rushed home to change into their alien costumes before returning to welcome the visitors. In London, people formed an orderly queue, assuming the aliens would eventually want to talk to someone. Aboard his flagship, Krex watched in confusion as his tactical officer provided updates. "Sir, the humans are gathering beneath our ships." "Excellent," Krex nodded. "They recognize our superior firepower and are surrendering." "Not exactly, sir. They appear to be celebrating. Many are holding signs that say 'Welcome to Earth' and 'Take me to your leader.' Some are dressed in costumes resembling our appearance. And there's a human news crew setting up for interviews." "Interviews?" Krex sputtered. "We are here to contain them, not participate in their media circus." At that moment, Ripley, Vor, and Meepo, still disguised as a backpack, were frantically trying to reach Krex's ship. "You have to call this off," Ripley insisted. "This is a huge misunderstanding. The Council never authorized military action." Vor added, "For once in agreement with the human." "Look," Meepo pointed to a nearby screen where a live streamer was broadcasting from directly beneath one of the alien ships. "What's up, YouTube? Is ya boy Destroyer of Worlds 69 coming at you live from the alien invasion? Don't forget to smash that subscribe button before we potentially get vaporized. Also, big shout out to Ray-Ban for these sick alien-proof sunglasses. Use code Apocalypse for 10% off." On another channel, a morning talk show host was interviewing a self-proclaimed alien communication expert who had published a book approximately 12 minutes after the ships appeared. "So in your professional opinion, Carol, what do the aliens want?" "Well, Dave, based on my extensive research, they're either here to share advanced technology, warn us about climate change, or harvest our organs. But whatever their intention, my new book Alien Invasion, I Told You So, is available now on Amazon." Commander Krex was becoming increasingly agitated as more reports came in. "Sir, the humans are now offering our troops something called craft beer and artisanal tacos. A human child has asked if you can sign her Alien Invasion commemorative t-shirt. Several humans are requesting probe appointments. The final straw came when a Hollywood producer somehow got through to Krex's private communication channel. Listen, big guy, I'm seeing franchise potential here. 3-movie deal, merchandising rights, maybe a theme park attraction. I think Independence Day, but from the aliens' perspective. We could call it Dependence Day. Humanity depends on you guys for, I don't know, space wisdom or whatever. Michael Bay is interested in directing." Krex stared at the screen, utterly bewildered. This is not how invasions are supposed to work. By the time Ripley, Vor, and Meepo reached the command ship, Krex had ordered a full retreat. "Your species," he hissed at Ripley, "doesn't even have the decency to be properly terrified. What kind of psychological warfare is this?" "It's not warfare," Ripley explained, trying not to laugh. "Humans have been imagining alien contact for centuries. Half of us are thrilled you exist, and the other half are trying to figure out how to profit from it. But we were going to contain you, restrict your development, possibly even relocate your population." "Yeah, that wasn't going to work," Ripley shrugged. "We can't even agree on pizza toppings, let alone coordinate a response to alien directives." As Krex's fleet retreated to a safe distance, the Galactic Council convened an emergency session. Lombax looked more stressed than any being with galaxy eyes had a right to look. "Let me get this straight," they said slowly. "We deployed a containment fleet, and the humans treated it as entertainment. They were taking selfies with our warships, Krex confirmed, sounding defeated. I did try to explain, Meepo offered. Humans don't respond to threats like other species. They get curious, sometimes even excited. It's a survival mechanism, Ripley explained. We turn fear into fascination. When we're scared, we make jokes. When we're threatened, we get creative. 1 month later, the Galactic Council's official treaty with Earth was being signed in what humans had insisted on calling the really big deal room at the United Nations. Longpax, representing the Council, still looked slightly shell-shocked by the whole affair, particularly by the fact that Earth had sent not only diplomats, but also a film crew from Netflix documenting the proceedings for a series titled So You Think You Can Negotiate with Aliens? As per our agreement, Longpax announced, Earth will be classified as a protected chaos zone, with humans granted limited access to galactic trading networks under supervision. And in return, the UN Secretary-General added, we promise not to export reality television, extreme sports, or spicy food competitions without clear warning labels. Ripley, who had somehow been promoted from accidental ambassador to Earth's official galactic liaison, is mostly because no one else understood alien bureaucracy, as well as someone who had crashed into it, leaned over to whisper to Excelvor. So basically, the galaxy is treating us like that weird neighbor everyone's fascinated by but also slightly afraid of. Precisely, Excelvor confirmed, having developed a reluctant fondness for humans, or at least for this particular human. You're too unpredictable to fully integrate, but too interesting to ignore. Works for me, Ripley nodded. Though I still think you guys are overreacting. We're really not that weird. At that exact moment, the ceremony was briefly interrupted by a streaker painted blue who ran through shouting, "Welcome to EF," before being tackled by security. Case in point, Ripley offered weakly. 6 months later, Earth had become the galaxy's equivalent of an extreme tourism destination. Aliens from across the known universe would visit, heavily disguised of course, to experience the thrill of human unpredictability. And on your left, a tour guide would announce to a group of tentacled tourists, you'll see humans voluntarily submersing themselves in nearly frozen water, with a practice they call polar bear plunging. The visitors would gasp and take photos, while adding survived observing human recreational hypothermia to their social media profiles. Ripley had set up a consultation business helping aliens understand human behavior, with Meepo as his enthusiastic partner and Excelvor as their reluctant fact-checker. No, humans don't actually believe wrestling is real, Ripley would explain to bewildered clients. Yes, they know those ghost hunting shows are fake. No, they don't actually think chocolate is better than sex, that's just marketing. Commander Krex had been reassigned to patrol the furthest, emptiest sector of the galaxy, a punishment he considered a blessing as it kept him far away from humans. His only communication with Earth was a subscription to a human streaming service which he would watch in secret while muttering about knowing your enemy. Meanwhile, most humans remained blissfully unaware that they were considered the most terrifying species in the galaxy. Those who did encounter aliens usually assumed they were dealing with eccentric foreign tourists or particularly dedicated cosplayers. And in the Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council, a new entertainment system had been installed. Every evening, council members would gather to watch Earth's news and social media feeds, alternating between horror and fascination. "They're doing what now?" became the most common phrase in galactic diplomatic circles. Longpax, who had developed a particular fondness for cat videos, summed it up best, "We may never understand humans, but the universe would be far less interesting without them." As for Ripley, he finally got his coffee machine fixed. It now made the best damn coffee in the galaxy, a small thank you gift from Excelvor, who had come to appreciate the human stimulant after his experiences on Earth. To chaos, Ripley would toast each morning, raising his mug to the stars. And somewhere out there, the galaxy would nervously toast back, "To humans, may they never figure out how scary they really are."